I always thought Thanksgiving was supposed to feel warm, crowded kitchen, loud family, too many casseroles, and everyone pretending not to hate each other for a few hours. But the year everything happened, that Thanksgiving still sits on my chest like a weight, like something never really left. I grew up in Briarton, Pennsylvania, a quiet town people only stopped in when they'd taken the wrong exit. We lived in a slanted, wood-paneled house that creaked every time the wind changed. My parents didn't believe in updates. If something still technically worked, they saw no reason to fix it. My big sister, Julianne, never fit in that world. Never even tried. She was the type of kid who smoked behind the middle school dumpsters, dyed her hair at 13, and got suspended for breaking into the science lab, just to see what would happen if she mixed everything. She was brilliant and chaotic, a walking fire alarm. My parents fought with her so loudly the neighbors recognized our voices. "Jules, Jesus Christ, why can't you just not cause problems?" Dad would yell, and she'd roll her eyes, flick ash on the floor, and mutter, "Maybe if you two chilled the hell out, I'd stop giving you a reason." But under all that, she had a good heart. She just never knew how to show it. She left for college in Newark, New Jersey, which honestly shocked the entire neighborhood. My mom cried for a week not because she missed her, but because she was convinced Jules would get arrested within 48 hours. But somehow, my sister changed. Not fully. Jules could never be fully normal. But she softened. Less chaos. Less screaming. More contained. The first Thanksgiving she returned alone. Things were tense but manageable. A few sarcastic comments. A few slammed doors. Nothing catastrophic. But the second Thanksgiving, God, if I could erase it from my mind, I would. Because that was the year she brought home her boyfriend. It was the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and the house felt like a pressure cooker. Mom was running around doing her usual pre-company cleaning panic, which basically meant rearranging furniture no one asked to be rearranged. Dad kept saying, "He better not be some damn criminal." Which was funny, considering Jules had already survived her criminal phase. But my parents had a special gift. They could panic about literally anything. Around 7 p.m., we finally got a text from Jules. "On our way. Traffic's crazy. Don't start without us." Mom nearly dropped the mashed potatoes. Oh God, they're almost here. Do I look like someone's mother meeting her daughter's boyfriend? Dad didn't look up from his beer. You are someone's mother meeting her daughter's boyfriend. Helpful, Ronald. I laughed so hard I choked on pretzel crumbs. Then we heard at car doors outside. Voices. Footsteps. Mom froze like a mannequin. Dad wiped his hands on his jeans. I leaned against the doorframe, trying not to grin. I expected someone pierced, tattooed, wild-haired, someone who looked like a reflection of Jules' whole chaotic youth. But the guy who walked in? Clean shave. Sweater vest. Khakis. Khakis. I almost died laughing inside my own lungs. He stepped in, smiled like he was greeting PTA parents, and said, "Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Heller. I'm Rowan Kessler. Thank you for having me." My mom blinked. Dad blinked. I blinked. Even Jules looked slightly embarrassed, like she knew damn well the contrast was ridiculous. They shook hands. Mom started gushing instantly. "Oh wow, you're so polite." "Thank you, ma'am." "Ma'am," he called me ma'am. "Oh, I love him." Dad shot her a look like, "Calm down before you adopt the boy." Rowan mentioned he was majoring in wildlife ecology, which made my parents swoon for reasons I still don't understand. Maybe the vest did something to their brains. Then he held up a ceramic dish covered in foil. "I made something for the dinner tomorrow. I hope that's okay." Mom nearly fainted. "Of course it's okay." She ushered him inside like he was royalty. I swear she wiped invisible dust off the couch before he sat. For a little while, everything was fine, normal even. But with my family, normal never lasts. The next evening, the house smelled like mashed potatoes, turkey, cornbread, and nervous sweat. Jules and Mom had been laughing in the kitchen for an hour. Dad kept sneaking sips of whiskey. The dogs barked at nothing. Everything was loud in that familiar, comforting way. Rowan arrived in another sweater. Different color. Same vibe. He greeted everyone with that polite smile. complimented the house, and told Dad his turkey looked professionally done, which immediately made Dad adopt him internally. We sat down. The food was spread across the table like a magazine photo, and nestled in the back corner, almost hidden, was Rowan's dish. It looked like a thick stew, dark, rich, almost glossy. I didn't think much about it. Dad said grace, a long, rambly one like usual, and everyone dug in. Mom took a spoonful of Rowan's dish first, smiling politely. Jules followed. I shrugged and added some to my plate. We were halfway through eating when Rowan cleared his throat. Would it be all right if I said a few words? Everyone nodded, mouths full. Thank you. I wanted to share something important to me. Thanksgiving is about honoring history. The land. The animals we rely on. My family's always encouraged respecting what we eat, using every part, never wasting. Dad nodded approvingly. Mom smiled faintly. Rowan continued. This dish. It's traditional. It honors the whole animal. Every organ, every piece that nurtured life. I wasn't listening much, not until I cut into the chunk of meat on my plate. It wasn't normal. Not like turkey. Not like beef. It was hollow, rounded, and when I turned it slightly, I felt my stomach drop. It was a ventricle. A heart. Before I could say anything, I heard Mom gag deeply. I turned. There, sitting in the middle of her plate, was an eyeball. Still shiny. Still perfectly spherical. Still looking like something that had belonged to something alive not too long ago. Mom shoved her chair backwards so violently it screeched across the floor. Oh God, no, 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 no. She sprinted to the bathroom. We heard the door slam. Then retching. Dad stood up slowly. Confusion turning into anger. What the hell is this? He snarled. Rowan blinked. It's tradition. It's respectful to the... Dad slammed his fist onto the table so hard every plate rattled. Get out. Sir, I said get out of my house. Jules jumped up, screaming at Dad. Dad screamed back. Rowan kept saying, it's not what you think, in this weirdly calm voice. The dogs barked. The house shook. Mom sobbed behind the bathroom door. It felt like chaos had ripped through the dining room in one breath. Rowan finally backed toward the door. Face pale. Hands shaking. I didn't mean I thought, Jules, can we talk? Get out, Dad roared as he charged at him. Rowan bolted. Jules chased after both of them, screaming, Dad, stop! He didn't do anything wrong. I watched through the window as Rowan fled into the cold air while Dad threatened to throw his ass into next week. Jules left with Rowan that night. They fought all the way down the driveway. I heard Rowan shout, your family is ungrateful. They don't respect anything. She yelled back, you humiliated me, Rowan. What is wrong with you? They argued until their voices disappeared down the road. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. Jules came home for Christmas break alone. No sweater vest boyfriend. No weird dishes. No tension. She barely mentioned Rowan at all. Just muttered, yeah, we're done, and changed the subject. My parents were relieved. Mom joked she'd pray for whoever dated him next. But the peace didn't last. On December 23rd, the morning was bright and icy. Mom took the dogs out back around 8 a.m. I heard her scream before I even got out of bed. Not a normal scream. Not startled. A ripping, panicked, primal scream. I ran downstairs, missing every other step, and saw Mom standing in the yard, shaking violently. She pointed toward the oak tree. What is that? Who put that? Oh God. I followed her finger. At first, I thought it was a trash bag. Or maybe a tarp. But when I got closer, I realized it was a lamb. A real lamb. Hanging upside down from a thick rope thrown over a branch. Its stomach ripped open, guts spilling in long, frozen strands that swayed slightly in the winter wind. I covered my mouth. My whole body felt electric and wrong. Dad rushed out behind me and stopped dead. What the Jesus Christ? The dogs barked in panic. Mom sobbed harder. Carved into the trunk of the tree, right above where the blood had frozen in a dark stain, were 4 words. You don't respect life. Dad called the police. Officers came, took photos, Asked questions we couldn't answer. Do you know anyone who would do this? Has anyone threatened you? Any break-ins recently? Mom stared blankly. Dad kept rubbing his temples. But I knew. I knew immediately. Rowan. He talked about respect the same way cult leaders talk about destiny. His eyes went strange when he mentioned animals. He had acted offended, deeply offended during Thanksgiving. Not embarrassed. But I didn't say his name out loud. Not yet. Something in me hesitated. Afraid speaking it might make things worse. The police never found who did it. And for a few weeks, nothing else happened. But quiet doesn't always mean safe. It was New Year's Eve. The house was calm. Mom watched Hallmark movies. Dad shoveled snow. Jules scrolled TikTok on the couch. I went upstairs to grab a hoodie. As soon as I opened my door, cold air rushed past me. My bedroom window was open. I hadn't opened it. Not for days. Before I could process that, I saw something resting on my pillow. Something small. Something pale. I stepped closer. It was a lamb's hoof. Cleanly cut. Wrapped in twine like some kind of offering. My breath froze in my throat. Then I saw the note. A scrap of brown paper, messy handwriting. If you won't respect the animals, I'll teach you. One of you will understand. My heart dropped. I heard snow crunch outside. Slow footsteps. I looked out the open window. Rowan was standing in the yard. In the dark. In the falling snow. Just staring up at me. Motionless. Cold. Empty. He didn't blink. Didn't move. Didn't breathe. It seemed. Just watched me with this hollow expression like I was a specimen under a microscope. I stumbled backward and yelled, "Dad! Dad!" Dad sprinted upstairs, looked out the window, grabbed the baseball bat he kept in the closet, but by the time he hit the yard, Rowan was gone. No footprints. No movement. Just snow falling clean and silent. The police were called again. They searched. Found nothing. And from that night on, Rowan never appeared again. Not in person. Not online. Not in any way. He vanished. But sometimes when the air turns cold, when Thanksgiving gets close, when leaves start dying and everything smells like winter, Mom swears she hears hooves outside. Dad sets motion lights around the whole yard. Jules barely talks about that year at all. And me? I never eat stew anymore. And I never, ever, sleep with my window unlocked. I never thought a simple phone call could change the entire direction of my life. I was 28 that November, living alone in a cramped studio apartment above a laundromat in Trenton Grove, Pennsylvania. It was the kind of place where the pipes clanked when someone showered upstairs and the radiator hissed so loud at night you'd swear someone whispered through the vents. I worked as a shift manager at a delivery warehouse. Long nights, little sleep, constant stress. I barely talked to my extended family. Some bridges burn slowly. Some burn all at once. Ours had smoldered for years. But then, 3 days before Thanksgiving, my mother called. Her voice cracked the moment I said, "Hello, baby. Can you come home this year? Please?" I'd never heard her sound that tired, that small. My mom was many things. Stubborn, loud, emotional, but she wasn't fragile. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Mom, talk to me." "It's your cousin," she whispered. "Joel. He's not well. And your Aunt Lorraine insists everything's fine, but it's not. I can feel it in my bones." Joel. I hadn't thought about him in years. Growing up, he was the strange, quiet kid who never quite fit with the rest of us, sharp, anxious, withdrawn. Always scribbling in notebooks or staring out windows like he was watching a different world than the rest of us. When we were teenagers, he had episodes. Violent ones. Once he slammed his sister's head into a cabinet door because she touched his sketchbook. Another time, he locked himself inside the shed and carved strange symbols into the walls with a nail. Doctors, therapy, meds. Nothing stuck. I moved out at 21 and never looked back. But now, hearing my mother's voice tremble, something twisted inside my chest. "Mom, what happened exactly?" "He's been pacing at night talking to himself. Lorraine says it's stress. Stress doesn't make you ask what people's blood smells like, baby. She sniffed. I heard him say it over the phone. He didn't know I was on the line. A cold ripple slid down my spine. And she still wants to host Thanksgiving, I asked. She keeps saying it'll cheer him up. Mom lowered her voice. But I'm scared. Your aunt is pretending everything's normal. And you want me there? Why? Because... She swallowed hard. I don't trust the vibe in that house, and I need someone who will listen. Someone who sees things clearly. The laundromat below groaned as washers spun up. My stomach churned. All right, I finally muttered. I'll come. The drive to Cedar Ridge, a rural township an hour west, was always unsettling. Dense forests, abandoned barns, deer carcasses along the roadside, the kind of quiet that felt too quiet. My aunt's house sat on a lonely patch of farmland, an old colonial-style home with green shutters and peeling white paint. A big red barn stood crooked in the back, like it leaned away from the house on purpose. The yard was full of cars. Family was already inside. I took a breath and stepped up the porch stairs. Before I could knock, the door opened. My cousin Sienna hugged me instantly. "Oh my God, you made it! Finally!" she laughed. "We thought you were going to bail like the last 3 years." "I almost did," I said honestly. She pulled back and scanned my face. "You okay?" I shrugged. "Long week." Inside, the house buzzed with warmth. Chatter, laughter, the smell of roasted turkey. Kids ran through the halls. The TV in the living room blasted football commentary. Normal. Comforting. Until I saw him. Joel, sitting alone at the dining table, hands folded, staring straight ahead. No emotion, no blinking, just still. He looked thinner than I remembered. Hollow cheeks, sunken eyes, long unkempt hair tied in a messy knot. He wore a faded black hoodie, sleeves pulled over his hands like a child hiding from the cold. My Aunt Lorraine noticed me staring. "Don't mind him," she whispered quickly. "He's just tired. Had a long night." "Yeah," I said quietly. I bet he did. Dinner was loud. Plates clinking, kids screaming, uncles telling stories that were funnier to them than anyone else. The kind of chaotic Thanksgiving that should feel comforting. But beneath it all, tension. Like everyone was pretending. Joel didn't eat. Not one bite. He just stared at his empty plate, lips moving as if whispering to someone. At one point, Uncle Gary leaned toward him. "You okay, bud? You want some stuffing?" Joel's jaw tightened. Then very quietly he said, "Don't talk to me." Gary raised his hands. "All right then. Damn." A few cousins exchanged looks. My mom pressed her fork into her turkey, avoiding his direction entirely. Aunt Lorraine laughed too loud. "He's just not feeling great. You know how he gets sometimes." "Sometimes," I muttered under my breath. Then something strange happened. Little Hannah, one of the younger cousins, walked over to Joel holding a drawing. "Look, Joel, I made a turkey," she chirped. He slowly lifted his head. His eyes, they weren't empty anymore. They were sharp, focused, almost hungry. "That's a turkey?" he muttered. "Yeah," she giggled. "You like it?" Everyone at the table froze subtly, pretending not to watch. Joel leaned in. "It doesn't look like a turkey." His voice had a thin tremble to it. "It looks like it's bleeding." Hannah frowned. "No." He tilted his head, then smiled. A slow, wrong smile. "Do you know what a real turkey sounds like when you cut it open?"
"Joel!"
Aunt Lorraine snapped.
"Enough!"
The room went silent. Hannah backed away, confused, clutching her drawing. I watched Joel's shoulders rise and fall, his breath uneven. Something was building inside him, something unstable, something dangerous. After pie, people migrated to the living room. Some played cards, some watched football, others scrolled on their phones. I stepped into the hallway for air. That's when I heard it. A whisper. "I know you're listening." I froze. Joel stood at the end of the hallway, half hidden in shadow. "What?" I muttered. "You heard me." He took a step closer. "You always watch people, always analyzing. You think you hide it, but you don't." His voice felt wrong, detached, like he was reciting something in his head and letting it leak out. "Joel," I began carefully, "I'm just concerned." "Concerned," he repeated with a smirk. "You're scared." I swallowed hard. "Why would I be scared of you?" "You should ask Mom," he said. His tone sharpened. "She knows why." Before I could respond, he walked away into the kitchen. My heart hammered. My mom appeared beside me. She must have seen my face. "What did he say?" "Nothing," I muttered. I need some air." She grabbed my wrist. "No, baby, tell me." "He said you know why I should be scared." Her eyes glistened. For a moment, she looked like she wanted to confess something, but then she shook her head. "Let's not do this today," she whispered shakily. "Please." "No," I insisted. "Mom, what aren't you telling me?" She opened her mouth. Then, a scream tore through the house. A raw, blood-curdling shriek. It came from the living room. People ran. Kids cried. Someone yelled for help. I sprinted inside. My cousin Travis lay on the carpet, blood blooming from his shoulder. Standing above him, Joel, holding a pistol, not shaking, not panicked. Calm. Too calm. Aunt Lorraine screamed, "Joel, put it down, please." He didn't. He looked at her with disgust. "You never listened," he whispered. "You never cared." "Buddy, stop!" Travis gasped. Joel shot him again, point blank. Chaos erupted. People dove behind furniture. Someone threw a chair. Kids wailed in the corner as ants pulled them close. "Call 911!" I shouted. My hands shook violently. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. But the smell of gunpowder, the screams, the blood, it was all painfully real. Joel turned slowly toward the cluster of relatives hiding behind the sofa. "You all sat here," he said quietly, "acting like family." He raised the gun. "And you never saw me." I lunged forward instinctively. "Joel." He fired. The bullet shattered a lamp inches from my head. I dove behind the dining table, heart exploding inside my chest. My mom crawled beside me. Oh God, she sobbed. Joel moved through the house methodically, cold, calculated, like he had fantasized about this moment for years. "Everyone always told me what I was," he called out. "Broken, strange, dangerous." He fired into the ceiling. The kids screamed louder. "But none of you asked why." Uncle Gary tried to run toward the back door. A shot rang out. Gary collapsed. Aunt Lorraine fell to her knees. "Joel, stop, please. You're sick, baby. You're not yourself." He turned toward her. "I know exactly who I am." He lifted the gun. I leapt toward him. "Joel, wait!" He fired again. Aunt Lorraine's body jerked backward and crumpled. A piercing wail erupted from Sienna. She clawed at the carpet, trying to reach her mother's body. Mom, no. Please get up." Joel watched her cry with unsettling quietness. "Don't touch her," he whispered. That's when I realized he wasn't choosing random targets. He was choosing deliberate ones, grudges, resentments, old wounds. This wasn't a break. This was revenge, years in the making. I dragged my mom toward the pantry. "Come on, move." She could barely breathe from panic. Inside the cramped pantry, we crouched behind bags of flour, trying not to make a sound. Gunshots echoed through the house. Heavy footsteps, Joel's voice. Low, murmuring, sometimes laughing. My mom clutched my hand until her knuckles turned white. "This is my fault," she whispered. "What? No." "Yes." Tears streamed down her face. I knew. I knew it would come to this." "What are you talking about?" She hesitated, then broke. "Your aunt. She hid things. For years. Joel hurt animals. He threatened kids. He told the school counselor he wanted to burn the house down with everyone inside. My blood ran cold. But she covered for him, Mom whispered. She always said he just needed love. He'll grow out of it. But he didn't, baby. He didn't. A crash echoed through the kitchen. Joel was close. My mom pressed both hands over her mouth to stifle sobs. I held my breath. His footsteps stopped right outside the pantry door. Slow, deliberate. A shadow shifted under the doorframe. Then, the doorknob turned. My mom whimpered. I grabbed the first thing in reach, a cast-iron skillet. The door creaked open. Joel stood there, eyes empty, gun raised. There you are, he whispered. I swung the skillet with everything I had. It cracked against his jaw. He stumbled backward, dropping the gun. I grabbed it. Run! I screamed at my mom. She bolted toward the front door. Joel roared and lunged at me. We crashed into the counter, knocking dishes to the floor. He clawed at my face with feral strength. You're just like the rest, he snarled, pretending you're better than me. I jammed my knee into his ribs and shoved him off. He lunged again. I aimed and fired. The bullet hit his chest. He staggered, looked down, almost confused, then collapsed onto the tile. Sirens wailed in the distance. I stood there shaking, gun slipping from my hands, breath coming in violent sobs. The living room was a nightmare. Bodies, blood, family destroyed. My mom clung to me, trembling hysterically. Neighbors poured in. Police stormed the house. Paramedics rushed inside. Everything blurred. Someone said, "It's over." Someone else said, "Oh God, how many?" But all I saw was Joel's face, that last expression, that flicker of confusion, as if he realized too late what he became. Cedar Ridge never recovered, neither did we. Every Thanksgiving since feels like stepping into a graveyard. My aunt's old house was demolished, too much blood soaked into the walls. People said it felt cursed, others said it was mercy. My mom goes to therapy twice a week. Sienna moved out of state. Hannah still wakes up screaming some nights. As for me, I replay that moment, the skillet, the shot, every time I close my eyes. Sometimes I hear Joel whisper in my ear, "You only saw me when I broke." Maybe he's right. Maybe we all saw the signs and looked away. Maybe he was doomed long before that night. But one thing is certain. That Thanksgiving carved itself into my bones, into the walls of every home I walk into every moment of silence, and every year when November rolls around. I remember the last words Aunt Lorraine said before she died. "Please stop, baby." But he didn't, and none of us will ever be the same. I never thought Thanksgiving could scare the hell out of me. Honestly, growing up in the Midwest, the holiday always meant the same thing. Football on TV, the smell of stuffing, my mom yelling at everyone to get out of her kitchen, and my dad pretending he didn't hear her. But that year changed the way I looked at family forever. Before I even get to the nightmare that night turned into, I gotta explain a few things about my dad's older brother. Uncle Ray wasn't normal. Even my dad said that, and my dad is the kind of guy who'll make excuses for a rattlesnake if it bites him. He didn't mean it, he'd say, holding bloody napkins to his hand. Maybe I stepped too close. Ray was 4 years older than my dad, and they grew up in a rough part of Lowell back in the 60s. Their neighborhood was the kind of place where half the kids got drafted, and the other half ended up dead or locked up. Dad talked about it sometimes, never with nostalgia, always with this weird tightness in his voice, like he was remembering something he wished he could forget. Ray was the fighter, the hothead, the kid who would run toward a problem instead of away from it. Dad used to tell this story about how he got jumped by 3 older kids outside the old Jefferson Mill. He was 14, small, scrawny, the kind of kid bullies circled like vultures. Ray found out, walked right up to those boys the next day, and according to Dad, beat the stupid out of all 3 of them. That was Ray, ruthless, loyal, and absolutely not afraid of anything. When the draft letters started hitting mailboxes, everyone in their neighborhood prayed they wouldn't get one. Not Ray. He marched into a recruiting office on his 18th birthday and said, "Give me whatever's the hardest thing you got." The Marines were happy to oblige. He came back. Different. Real quiet. Real intense. The kind of quiet where a person is either deeply wise or deeply dangerous. For Ray, it leaned more toward dangerous. He bounced around after that. California, Arizona, Texas. Nobody ever knew what he was really doing. Dad heard rumors, the kind you pretend you didn't hear. Bars, fights, time in county jails, people owing him money, people being scared of him. Nothing ever proven. Nothing ever admitted. But the one rumor everyone heard, even as a kid, was that Ray rode with a motorcycle club, not the friendly weekend kind. The other kind. Dad never confirmed it, but whenever people mentioned it, he'd just say, "Don't talk about things you don't understand." And that was the end of that. When I turned 15, I'd honestly forgotten Ray existed. My parents never mentioned him. No calls, no visits. It was like he'd evaporated off the face of the earth until Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving of 1994. The night everything went sideways. Our house felt wrong from the minute I woke up. Not haunted wrong, just tense, like everyone was breathing too quietly, like the walls were waiting for someone to yell. Mom was chopping celery like it had personally offended her. Dad kept wiping the same spot on the counter even though it was spotless. I was sitting at the kitchen table half awake, eating toaster waffles when I heard Mom snap, "You should have told him no, Hank." Dad didn't look up. I'm not telling my own brother he's not welcome here. Mom slammed the knife down. "Ray isn't like other brothers and you know it." Dad said nothing. Mom lowered her voice, even though it was just us three in the house. "I don't want him here." Dad finally looked up at her. "He's still family." Mom gave this bitter little laugh. Not loud, but sharp enough to cut glass. "Family doesn't scare people, Hank." Dad didn't argue. He just kept wiping. And me? I just sat there pretending my waffles were incredibly interesting, but my stomach felt weird, tight, fluttery. I'd never heard my parents fight like that. At that point, Uncle Ray was just a storybook character to me, a legend, something my dad talked about like old war stories. So I finally asked, "Is Uncle Ray really coming?" Dad sighed. "Yeah, bud, he's coming." Mom muttered under her breath, "And he's not coming alone." I asked what she meant, but nobody answered. Later that afternoon, I was in my room playing F-Zero on my Super Nintendo, trying not to think about anything. A few hours before dinner, I heard it, a low hum, then a growl, then a roar, multiple roars, engines, not cars, motorcycles, a whole lot of motorcycles. My window rattled like someone was pounding on it. I paused the game, walked over, and pulled the curtain back. My jaw literally dropped. A line of motorcycles, at least 20, were rolling down our quiet cul-de-sac, engines screaming, chrome shining under the gray November sky, leather jackets, patches, heavy boots, long beards, tattoos. They didn't look like the guys you see at charity bike rides. These guys looked like they ate charity bikers for breakfast. And leading the whole parade was a tall, broad-shouldered man with gray hair pulled into a short ponytail, wearing a faded leather vest covered in old military patches. He parked right in front of our house, took his helmet off, looked straight at our house with this expression like he already knew there'd be trouble. That was Uncle Ray, though I wouldn't know it until a minute later. One of the bikers shouted out, "Which one of you suburban sons of bitches is Henry's kid brother?" Dad stepped outside, hands raised. "Ray, Jesus, this is a neighborhood, not a damn parade." Ray barked a laugh. "What?" I told the boys to park quiet. A few of the bikers snorted. I watched all this from behind my window, frozen. I'd never seen guys like this in real life. They weren't TV tough guys. They were real, rough, loud, dangerous in a way my 15-year-old brain couldn't fully process yet. Then Ray looked right at my window, and he smiled. 5 minutes later, I heard footsteps, heavy ones, Then a knock that wasn't really a knock. It was more like someone hitting the door with the side of their fist. Before I could answer, the door swung open and half a dozen men filled my tiny room like a damn tidal wave. Cigarette smoke, leather, beer breath, cold air, all of it rushed in like a wall. The biggest one said, "Damn, kid's got himself an arcade in here." Ray stepped forward. "This the famous nephew?" I nodded, brain short-circuiting. Yes, sir." Ray laughed. "Don't sir me. I work for a livin'." Another biker elbowed him. "Ray, the boy looks like he's fixin' to pass out." Ray turned to me. "Kid, relax. If I wanted to break anything, I'd have started with your old man's car." A few bikers laughed. I didn't. My voice cracked when I finally spoke. You guys want something?" Ray squinted at the TV. "What the hell's that?" A Super Nintendo. Looks like a movie someone forgot to finish drawing." One of the bikers took a long swig of beer. "Nah, man, it's one of them controller things. My cousin's kid got one. Lil dude tried showing me and I damn near threw the thing at the wall." Ray smirked. "Bet I can beat whatever's on there." And before I could say a word, he reached into his pocket, pulled out his wallet, and tossed a crumpled $20 bill onto my floor. "If I beat it, that's yours. Boys, pay the kid." Suddenly bills were raining down on my bedroom floor. 10s, 5s, 20s. I froze. I had no idea what was happening. One biker said, "Hell, kid ought to buy himself a real game, one with guns." Ray sat on the edge of my bed and pointed at the controller. "Show me how this damn thing works." I wasn't scared anymore. Not completely. Nervous, yeah. But they didn't seem violent, just chaotic, overwhelming. I handed him the controller and tried to teach him how to play. He died in the first 10 seconds. Then again, then again. The men behind him roared with laughter. "Ray, you got the reflexes of a damn mailbox." After 10 minutes, he still couldn't jump over the first pit, but he kept trying. And at one point, I caught myself smiling. It was surreal, like seeing a shark try to knit. Eventually, one of the bikers stuck his head in the room. "Food's done, boys, before Ray eats all the damn turkey himself." Ray stood up, clapped me on the shoulder, and said, "You're all right, kid. Keep your head straight and don't take crap from nobody. Even blood don't get a pass." I didn't understand that last part then. I would later. Dinner was chaos. Mom tried, God bless her, but she looked like she was going to faint the entire time. Ray and his crew devoured everything turkey. Stuffing, pie, rolls, cranberry sauce. They didn't eat, they inhaled. I couldn't even be mad. It was like watching a pack of wolves discover a buffet. Ray raised a beer and said, "Hank, you married a damn good cook." Mom forced a smile that didn't last more than a second. Dad looked exhausted, but relieved somehow. Like having Ray here, even with the chaos, meant something to him he couldn't explain. Conversation was loud, chaotic. Half the bikers were swapping war stories. Some real, some bullshit, some somewhere in between. Ray told a story about jumping out of a helicopter because the idiot pilot got lost, and the others argued with him about whether it even happened, but then things shifted. It was subtle at first. A few bikers went quiet. Then Ray did. Then Dad. Ray leaned back in his chair. "Hank, you gonna tell her, or should I?" Dad stiffened. Mom froze. "Tell me what?" Ray wiped his mouth with his sleeve. "The reason I came." The room felt colder, quieter, tighter. Dad finally spoke. "Ray, please don't." Ray ignored him. He turned to Mom. "I'm in trouble." The room went dead silent. "Real trouble." Mom didn't blink. "What kind of trouble?" Ray nodded toward the patch on his vest. "Club trouble." I didn't understand, but adults sure did. Mom whispered, "Oh my God." Ray continued, "Things went bad in Reno, real bad. Some guys are looking for me, not cops. Worse." Dad's voice cracked. "Ray, why the hell would you bring that here?" Ray looked straight at him. "Because you're my brother." Mom stood so fast her chair fell backward. You brought danger to my home? Ray didn't deny it. I needed somewhere they wouldn't expect you're all I got. Dad looked sick. I suddenly realized the bikers weren't just guests. They were protection. My house wasn't a holiday dinner. It was a hideout. Around 9 p.m., the bikers started leaving. Not all, just a few. The way they left didn't feel casual. They split into pairs, quiet, watching the street. Ray paced the living room, chewing on a toothpick, twitchy in a way I'd never seen. Dad whispered to him, "How close are they?" Ray shrugged. "Close enough." Mom yelled, "Close enough for what, Ray?" He didn't answer. Around 9:40 p.m., one of the bikers came back in through the front door fast. Too fast. "Ray, we got a car circling. Black Crown Vic. Windows tinted. Been around twice." Mom grabbed my arm. Ray exhaled, long and tired. "They found me." Dad whispered, "Jesus Christ." Ray turned to him. "Hank, get your family in the back room and keep the lights off. Don't argue." Mom's voice cracked. "Are we in danger?" Ray didn't sugarcoat it. "If they think you're helping me." "Yeah." My heart was hammering so hard I could barely breathe. Dad grabbed my shoulder. "Come on. Now." We went into the back bedroom. Dad locked the door. Mom was shaking so hard she couldn't stand still. I pressed my ear to the door. Outside, I heard Ray barking orders. "No one fires unless they fire first, you hear me?" Footsteps. Boots on gravel. A motorcycle revving somewhere in the darkness, then a car door slammed. Another. Voices outside, low, angry. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone chilled my blood. Then a shout, then another. A pause. A second of dead, terrifying silence, and then a single gunshot. Mom screamed into her hands. Dad pulled us lower to the floor. More shouting, someone running, a motorcycle engine roaring to life, tires peeling out. Then nothing. Dead. Impossible quiet. Dad didn't move for at least 2 minutes. Then he cracked the door open. The living room was empty. The driveway was empty. Ray and his bikers were gone. All of them. Dad walked outside, slowly. I followed. There was no car on the street. No bikes, no people. But there was something on the ground at the end of our driveway. A single spent shell casing. Still warm. Dad picked it up with shaking hands. Mom came outside behind us. "Where's Ray?" Dad stared down the dark street. "He's gone." "Is he coming back?" Dad didn't answer. Not that night, not that year. Not ever. We never saw him again. Cops came eventually, responding to reports of loud engines. They found nothing. No bodies, no blood, no damage. Just a family who didn't sleep that night. Dad got one letter from Ray 3 months later. No return address. Just a short scribble. "Didn't mean to bring heat to your home. Thanks for dinner. Keep the kid out of trouble. R." And that was it. Ray vanished from our lives like he'd never existed. Mom never talked about that. Thanksgiving again. Dad only did once. He said, "Family ain't always good, but it's still family." I still think about that night every Thanksgiving. The sound of those engines, the fear in my mom's eyes, the single gunshot in the dark, and the man I barely got to know, the uncle who showed up with a biker army and disappeared into the night forever. Sometimes I look at that shell casing Dad kept in a drawer. A reminder, a warning, a memory. Thanksgiving is supposed to be about coming together. That year, ours did. But only for one terrifying night. I never thought Thanksgiving would become the day everything in my life cracked open like a rotten floorboard. Quiet at first, then a sudden drop, straight into the dark. Before any of that happened, though, I was just trying to hold my life together with duct tape and late-night coffee. My name is Lena Ward, and for most of this year, I'd been convincing myself I was okay. I had moved back to my hometown, Pine Hollow, Ohio, A place that's basically 3 gas stations, a hardware store, and a Walmart that always smells like stale popcorn, after a breakup that left me feeling like someone had pulled the plug out of my chest. My ex, Jared, wasn't abusive or anything dramatic like that. He was just cold, distant. The kind of guy who texts wide after not speaking for 2 days. After the breakup, I realized I had spent 2 years trying to convince myself crumbs were a meal. So I decided to reset my life entirely. New town, new apartment, new routines. The apartment was small but cozy, bottom unit of a duplex owned by some older couple who lived in Florida half the year. My roommate, Kendall, worked nights as a nurse's aide and was never home until late. She was goofy, smart, and messy in a charming way. She did this thing where she'd leave little post-it notes on the fridge with things like, "Drink water, dummy," or, "Leftover pizza is holy." I liked her. I felt safe around her. But I didn't feel safe online. Not since Rowan. That wasn't his real name. I never learned it. On the dating app he went by Rowan_Hikes89. Profile pic blurry. But his messages were weirdly poetic in a way that felt like someone trying too hard. At first he seemed harmless, quiet, outdoorsy, asking normal get-to-know-you stuff. Then the energy shifted. He got clingy fast. If I didn't reply within a few minutes, he'd text things like, "You're ignoring me again, I can feel it. You don't have to pretend you're busy, just say you want to talk to me. Why are you out? Who's there with you?" I unmatched him. Blocked the number he gave me. Then new numbers started popping up. Sometimes they'd send a single word. "Hi. Lena. Why?" Sometimes entire paragraphs that sounded like someone arguing with themselves but pretending they were talking to me. It creeped me out. But I told myself people get weird online all the time, just block, move on. But he never stopped. I never told my family. Not because I didn't trust them, but because I didn't want to hear my mom's worried tone or my dad saying he'd handle it, which was code for showing up at my apartment unannounced and checking the locks 10 times. I'm 28. I should be able to handle my own life. That's why I never expected Thanksgiving night to go how it did. My parents live in Silver Mill, a small suburb 20 minutes from Pine Hollow. Every house looks like it came with a free golden retriever. My parents didn't. My mom's allergic. But they made up for that by basically parenting everyone else's pets. This year's Thanksgiving was small. Just my parents, my Uncle Ron, Aunt Deb, my 2 cousins, and me. Kendall stayed behind to have dinner with her family up north. The house smelled like turkey, cinnamon, and that old wooden cabinet my dad refuses to replace. The TV played the Macy's parade. Everyone talked at once the way families do. It was normal, comforting, until my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Happy Thanksgiving, Lena. You look beautiful today." I froze. My first thought, no. No way he could see me. I was wearing a plain sweater, messy bun, no makeup. I hadn't posted anything online. Nobody had taken pictures. I swallowed hard and texted back, "Who is this?" Instant reply, "Don't do that. You know." My stomach turned. I typed fast, "Stop contacting me. If you continue, I will go to the police." I was staring at my phone so long my mom snapped at me, "Lena, honey, put the phone down and help Deb with the stuffing." I forced myself to shove it into my pocket. I tried to focus on the food, the chatter, the familiar chaos. For the first time in months I wanted to be distracted. But every 5 minutes my mind drifted back. What did he mean? "You look beautiful today." Was he watching? When dinner finally rolled around, I pushed food around my plate and fake laughed at jokes. At one point, my Uncle Ron looked at me and said, "You're quiet today. Everything okay?" I lied. "Yeah, just tired." After dessert, around 8 p.m., most of the family started heading home. I helped my mom pack leftovers into cheap plastic containers she never got back. When the house thinned out to just my parents and me, I checked my phone again. 7 new texts, different number. I opened the first one. "I know you saw my message. Don't play games." The next. You're so ungrateful. Another, I can't believe you're doing this to me. Then, you're making me into someone I don't want to be. Then, you think you're safe with them? My hands shook. I showed my parents. My dad's face went red. Lena, we're going to the police tomorrow, no arguing. My mom rubbed my back. Do you know who this is? I told them everything, about the app, the blocking, the weird vibes. My dad clenched his jaw. You should have told us. I didn't want you to worry. Well, we're worried now. Stay here tonight. I shook my head. Kendall's not home today. I don't want the place empty. I would have stayed if Kendall was coming back, but she had said earlier she might stay with her parents overnight. Still, it was my home. I left their house around 9:30 p.m. If I had known what waited for me, I would have never turned the key in my apartment door. The duplex was quiet when I walked in. Too quiet. Even when Kendall wasn't home, the place usually felt lived in, warm. Her plants, her blankets, her snacks, everywhere. Tonight it felt emptied. I locked the main door behind me and went straight to my bedroom, kicking off my boots. I changed into sweats, grabbed my laptop and put on some cheesy holiday rom-coms, Snow and Second Chances, one of those movies where everyone falls in love after slipping on ice. Halfway through, around 11:15 p.m., I heard footsteps inside the apartment. Heavy ones, slow. I froze, remote in hand. Kendall? I called out, heart hammering. No answer. Footsteps came closer, stopped right outside my door. The doorknob turned. Once, twice, softly, then harder. I sat up straight. Kendall? You home? Silence. Then, the faintest whisper. I couldn't make out the words. I jumped off my bed, grabbed my phone and backed into the far corner of the room. The doorknob rattled harder like someone testing it. Then it stopped. Soft footsteps walked away. I dialed Kendall immediately. No answer. Again. Voicemail. On the 5th try, she picked up, whispering, Hey, sorry, what's up? Kendall, are you home? No, I'm at my mom's. Why? You okay? I felt my blood drain from my face. Someone was in the apartment. Kendall, I whispered, I'm not alone. What? Lena, call the cops. I don't know if he's still in here. Lock your door, don't move. Before I could say anything else, I got a text. Different number again. Good thing you made it easy to find your place. Another. You lock your bedroom door every night, smart girl. My breath hitched. He was here. He had been close enough to know that. I dialed my dad with shaking hands. He answered on the second ring. Lena? Dad? I tried not to cry. He's in my apartment? He tried my door. My dad's voice turned sharp and terrified all at once. Stay in the room, don't come out, I'm on my way. It normally took him 10 minutes to get to Pine Hollow. He made it in 5. During those 5 minutes, I stayed pressed against the wall, holding my breath at every sound. Every creak in the hallway, every faint shift in the air. I kept expecting the footsteps to come back, but nothing happened. When my dad knocked on the front door, I didn't move at first. I was scared it wasn't him. Then he shouted, Lena, it's me. I ran. I opened the bedroom door a crack, listening. Silent. I bolted to the front door and yanked it open. My dad rushed in, pulling me into a hug. Where is he? I don't know. He was right outside my door. We searched the entire apartment together, slowly, room by room. Bathroom, closets, pantry, underbeds. Nothing. Until we checked the kitchen window. My dad slid his fingers under the frame and lifted. It glided up effortlessly. The lock was undone. He looked at me with this mix of fear and frustration. Lena. This is how he got in. I hadn't realized the lock was broken. I had no idea it could lift that easily. My hands shook again. Dad, I swear I didn't leave it unlocked. I know, honey, he said gently, but he found a way. I didn't go back inside after that. I went home with my parents, slept on the couch with every light in the room on. We went straight to the county courthouse at 8 a.m. The clerk walked us through how to file a temporary protective order, how to document everything, how to save screenshots and numbers and dates. The officer we spoke to took it seriously. He's escalating. You did the right thing coming in. They tried to trace the numbers, but they were burner phones, disposable, meaning he planned this. 2 weeks later, we went to court to extend the restraining order. That's when I saw him for the first time. He sat across the room, skinny, pale, jittery, wearing an oversized gray hoodie. His leg bounced non-stop. His eyes were sunken, wild, scanning everyone but settling on me whenever he thought I wasn't looking. Not the poetic loner I imagined. Not harmless. Not normal. The judge didn't need much convincing. Between the texts, the break-in, the threats, she extended the order instantly. He didn't say a word the entire hearing. Just stared at me with that dead, hungry look. When it was over and we left the courtroom, I heard him behind us muttering under his breath, "You made me into this." Security escorted him out. He never contacted me again. But that night, Thanksgiving night, still stains every holiday that comes after. I still triple-check my locks. I still wake up some nights thinking I hear footsteps. I still sleep with my bedroom door locked. Just in case. Because the scariest part isn't the texts, the whispers, or the break-in. It's knowing he got inside once without me ever hearing him. And people like him don't just disappear. Not really. I never thought Thanksgiving would be the night I'd stop feeling safe in my own home. And I sure as hell didn't think it would start so. Normal, I grew up in a small Washington town named Fairview Ridge, the kind of place where everyone still waves even if they don't know you. After my parents divorced, I stayed with my mom, my 2 sisters, and my grandma visited so often she might as well have lived next door. Thanksgiving was the one day we always did right, no matter how broke we were, no matter how much family drama we dealt with all year. This year, 2023, was the first one where everything felt different. My older sister Lynette, 27, finally had her own apartment. My younger sister April, 18, still lived at home. And me? I was 22, working part-time at a local grocery store, still trying to figure out what the hell I wanted from life. Mom had been stressed for weeks. She wanted Thanksgiving to feel like it used to, a break from the world. A day where nobody fought, nobody slammed doors, nobody cried in the bathroom. We wanted it too. And I swear, the universe waited until we finally relaxed, just to tear everything apart. Around noon, I walked outside to throw trash in the bins when the first drops fell. Cold, heavy, bouncing off the plastic lid. Great, I muttered. Here we go. By 3 o'clock, the rain had become a full-on Pacific Northwest downpour, thick sheets, the kind that turns your whole street into a river. The wind hit sideways, whistling through the gutters like some horror movie soundtrack. Inside, though, it felt warm, safe, familiar. Football playing in the background, turkey smell filling the hallways. Grandma humming off-key while peeling potatoes, Mom yelling at the TV because the Seahawks were playing like trash. It was perfect. At 5, our grandparents pulled into the driveway. They were older, slower, and terrified of slipping, so April and I ran out to help them get inside without eating pavement. "Lord have mercy, it's coming down sideways," Grandma shouted, gripping my arm. Hold on, watch your step, Nana," I said. Grandpa just laughed. "Rain ain't never hurt nobody." "Yeah, well, your hip disagrees," Grandma snapped. Inside, everyone settled into their usual roles. Mom, stressed, multitasking, yelling from room to room. Grandma, gossiping, stirring pots that don't need stirring. April, complaining but helping anyway. Lynette, acting like she wasn't judging everyone. Me? I was floating around the house trying to make sure nothing went wrong. "This year will be good," Mom kept saying. "This year will be peaceful." She said it like a spell. Like if she said it enough times, the universe would listen. Spoiler, it didn't. By 6 o'clock, the table was set. The candles were lit, and the storm outside had turned the windows into mirrors. You couldn't see a damn thing through them. Just blackness and moving shadows of rain. We sat down. Turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing, mac and cheese, cornbread, gravy, cranberry sauce. Way too much food for 6 people, but Mom always cooked like she was feeding an army. We ate, we talked, we laughed. It felt like Thanksgiving again. After dinner, we moved to the living room to watch the rest of the game. Grandma wrapped herself in 2 blankets like she was hibernating. Grandpa leaned forward, yelling at players like they could hear him. That's when the doorbell rang. The doorbell ding-dong. Everyone froze. Who the hell? Mom whispered. No one else is coming, right? April asked. Unless one of you clowns invited somebody. Grandma said, squinting toward the hallway. No, Mom said sharply. Nobody else is supposed to be here. A strong gust of wind hit the side of the house so hard the wall shook. Mom looked at me. Go check, please. Great. Of course it had to be me. I walked to the front entrance, and the pounding rain on our metal awning sounded like hundreds of marbles hitting a tin roof. I yelled through the door. Hello? Who's out there? A muffled voice answered, but the storm swallowed the words. I opened the main door but kept the storm door locked. Through the glass a man stood soaked, wearing an oversized dark green raincoat with the hood covering most of his face. He stepped forward. Hey man, sorry, I'm real hungry, he said, raising his voice over the storm. Ain't eat all day. You got any food you could spare? His voice trembled, but something about it felt wrong. Not desperate, not scared, just practiced. Like he'd said this same line at 10 other doors. Still, he looked freezing. I'll get you something, I said. From the living room, I heard my mom whisper loudly. Who is it? Some guy asking for food, I called back. Shut the door, Mom yelled. But Grandma countered. Give the poor man a plate, it's Thanksgiving for God's sake. Against my better judgment, her voice got stuck in my head. I grabbed a few paper plates, packed some leftovers, and returned to the door. The guy was still standing there, still staring in, still unmoving. I lifted the plate a little. Here you go, man. He tried the handle right in front of me. He actually tried the handle. Whoa! Hey, I said. It's locked. He stepped closer. Too close. His hood shifted and I saw part of his face. Wide eyes, jittery, but not the kind you see on someone starving, the kind you see on someone waiting for an opening. Still, like an idiot, I unlocked the storm door, and the second I started to open it, he yanked it from the outside hard. Yo, back up, I yelled, slamming my shoulder into the door. But he pushed, harder. I just need inside, man. Come on, let me inside, he grunted, forcing the door half open. The plate fell to the ground. Mom! I screamed. Someone help me! April yelled from the living room. Bro, what's happening? Footsteps thundered behind me as Lynette sprinted over. Push it, she yelled. Together we shoved with everything we had. Through the gap of the door I saw movement. 2 silhouettes coming up the walkway fast. Dude, there's more people, I shouted. Shut the damn door, Mom screamed. We pushed. The man pushed back. Rain exploded through the doorway. His boot slipped on the wet step. He stumbled just enough. We slammed the door shut and locked it. I shoved my whole body against it, breathing hard. Check the back door. I gasped. I ran through the kitchen to the sliding glass door. The backyard was pitch black except for the faint glow of the neighbor's porch light. Something moved. 2 men sprinted across our grass toward the back door. Nope, I yelled, locking it so fast I almost broke the latch. They reached the porch, tried the handle, jiggled it, pulled harder. One of them muttered, Door's locked, go, go. And they ran back into the yard, disappearing into darkness. Mom dialed the police with shaking hands. Hi, we need help. 3 men tried to break in. No, they didn't get inside. Yes, we're all here. Please hurry. Grandma held her chest. Lord, I told you to give him a plate, not invite the devil. It ain't your fault, Grandpa said softly, gripping her hand. I kept pacing window to window, checking every inch of the house for 15 minutes. Nothing. Just heavy rain. Just wind. Just silence. Finally, flashing lights painted the windows blue. The police searched the property. The men were long gone. All they found was the ruined plate of food on the porch and boot prints leading to and from the doors. Looks like they were testing houses, one officer said. Storm makes it easier. No cameras, no neighbors looking out the window. We're installing cameras tomorrow, Mom said, her voice shaking. Good idea, the officer replied. People take advantage of holiday nights and bad weather. You all got lucky. Lucky? Funny word for a night that scared us harder than anything else in years. Nobody ate dessert. Nobody talked much. The house felt different, smaller, colder. As if some of the safety we'd always taken for granted had slipped through that door when he pushed it open. Grandpa finally said, Well, that was a hell of a Thanksgiving. And we actually laughed, the first laugh in an hour. But deep down, I couldn't stop thinking about one thing. What if I hadn't pushed hard enough? What if Lynette hadn't shown up at the right second? What if we had opened that door just 1 inch wider? What if those 3 men had gotten into the house, with my mom, my sisters, my grandparents, people I die for? Thanksgiving will never feel the same. Not for us. Not in this house. Not after seeing what kind of monsters walk around in the rain waiting for someone to let their guard down. The storm eventually stopped, but the fear didn't. I still check the doors twice every night. Still jump when someone knocks. Still hear that man's voice through the storm door. Just need inside, man. I wish I could forget it. I wish I didn't know how close we came to a nightmare. But I do. And I'll never forget it. I never thought going back home for Thanksgiving would trigger memories I spent years trying to bury. But that's how it usually goes with family. You leave, you grow up, you change. And somehow the moment you pull into the same dirt driveway, you become the same version of yourself you swore you'd never be again. My name is Lonnie, and I grew up in a tiny rural community in Whisper Ridge, South Carolina. Not many folks know the place. It's just a long stretch of pines, mud, mosquitoes, rusty pickup trucks, and a lake big enough to drown every secret that town ever had. I moved away when I was 19. Too many memories tied to those woods. Some good, many not so good. But this year, after 6 years of skipping out, my Aunt Jolene practically guilt-tripped me into coming home. It's been too damn long, baby, she said on the phone. Your uncle bought one of those big outdoor heaters. We're making dinner outside this year, it'll be fun. Outside, I laughed. It's November, Joe. Lord, you've been gone too long. Whisper Ridge ain't ever cold in November. She wasn't wrong. I drove in from Charleston on Wednesday night, staying at a cheap motel near Highway 17. I told myself it was because I didn't want to barge into my uncle's place late at night. But truthfully, I just wanted one more night of distance before facing my past. Thanksgiving Day came fast. I got to my uncle's place around 3 p.m., and I swear nothing had changed. Same peeling white paint, same sagging wooden porch, same old Bud Light signs nailed to the siding like they were trophies. My Uncle Harlan was already 2 beers deep when I arrived. Look who crawled back out of the big city, he yelled, crushing an empty can under his boot before pulling me into a bear hug. Boy, you ain't changed one bit. I've changed plenty, I laughed. Nah, still got that same face that says I'm better than this place. He wasn't wrong either. My cousin Reese, who was only a year younger than me, came around from behind the garage wiping motor oil off his hands. About damn time, he said. I was starting to think you forgot where home was. I didn't forget, I said. Just been busy. Reese smirked. Yeah, sure, busy avoiding us. We hugged, and I felt some of that old tension melt away inside. Aunt Jolene was moving like a tornado, checking the turkey, yelling at Reese's sister Haley to stop sneaking pie, fussing with the sweet potato casserole. "Lonnie," she sang, grabbing my face like I was still 12. "If you don't eat today, I swear I'll slap you with a turkey leg." Dinner wasn't ready, so we hung outside. Harlan had set up the yard like tailgate heaven. Cornhole boards, outdoor speakers, coolers full of beer and ice, a fire pit stuffed with fresh logs, even a battery-powered lantern hanging from the big oak tree. But what always captured my attention was the lake. Lake Price wasn't huge, but it was deep, dark, quiet. People drowned in it every couple of years. They said it had strange currents, but I grew up hearing the rumors that something in the lake pulled people down. Not a monster, not supernatural, just something. A real story, though. When I was 15, 2 boys from school went missing near the lake. No bodies ever found, no signs, like they vanished. My cousin Reese told me back then, "Folks go missing here all the time. This place is weird." I always believed him. Even now, standing on that patchy grass in the chill of late afternoon, something about the lake made my skin crawl. "Still gives you the creeps, huh?" Reese said, catching me staring. "Always has," I said. "Place ain't changed much. Still got night folks wandering out of them trees if you're unlucky." "Night folks?" He shrugged. "That's what we call the crazies that roam the woods sometimes, meth heads, drunks, weirdos." I didn't laugh. I'd heard stories, but I didn't know how real things were about to get. By the time dinner was ready around 5:30, the sky was turning a soft pink over the lake. We ate under a big canopy tent Harlan set up near the back porch. Warm, noisy, full of laughter. It felt like the Thanksgivings I remembered. But around the time the sun slipped completely behind the trees, something changed. It started with Reese putting down his fork and squinting toward the woods. "Y'all see that?" he whispered. His mom turned. "See what?" "There's someone out there." We all turned. A figure stood at the tree line, just barely visible where the lantern light faded. I couldn't make out a face. Just the outline of a man standing absolutely still, watching us. "Probably one of them hunters cutting through," Harlan said, but even he didn't sound convinced. "Hunters don't just stand there staring," Jolene muttered. Harlan stood. "Hey, you need something, buddy?" The figure didn't move. "Hey!" Harlan barked louder. Still nothing. "Damn weirdo," Harlan said, marching toward him, too drunk and too sure of himself. People got no damn manners in this county anymore. "Dad, just leave it," Haley said, but he didn't. He got maybe halfway to the tree line when the man suddenly turned around and slipped back into the woods without a sound. "Coward!" Harlan yelled after him. We all laughed nervously, trying to shake it off. But deep down, I felt the same cold fear I felt when I was 15, when kids disappeared near that same stretch of trees. We tried to keep eating, but the energy was gone. Jolene moved faster, cleaning plates. Reese kept staring out into the dark. My own heart wouldn't slow down. Then it got worse, because I saw another person, closer to the lake this time, standing there like a silhouette. "Reese," I whispered. "Look." He did, and immediately stood up. "Aw, hell no." Everyone turned again. This one was taller, narrower, not moving, just watching. "What the hell is this?" Jolene whispered. Harlan slammed his napkin down. "I swear to God I'm gonna knock somebody's teeth out tonight." He stomped forward again, but when he got close, the tall figure stepped into the trees and vanished. That's when my aunt said the words that made everything turn real. "Harlan, I think we should go inside." We all helped clean up, quick but panicked. I wanted to pretend I wasn't scared, but my hands were trembling carrying dishes. The moment everything was inside, Jolene locked the back door. "Who you think those people were?" she asked. Harlan shrugged. "Just some bored kids with nothing better to do." "Those were not kids," she whispered. Did you see the second one? He had to be 6'6" at least. Reese chimed in. Nobody around here's that tall. There was a silence no one liked. Night in Whisper Ridge isn't like normal night. The woods don't make noise, the air goes heavy. Even the lake gets still. It feels like something is out there watching, and tonight, it was. Around 8 p.m., I offered to grab more beers from the cooler outside. Reese immediately said, "Nah, I'll get it." But I forced a smile. "I got it. It's just the yard." "You sure?" "Yeah." I wasn't sure, not at all, but I hated feeling afraid on my uncle's property. When I stepped outside, the air felt thicker. The lantern under the oak tree flickered once, then died completely. "What the hell?" I whispered. The canopy tent was dark now. No lanterns, no glow, just shadows. I walked to the cooler anyway, grabbed as many beers as I could hold, and turned back toward the house. Scree! A metal chair scraped across the concrete under the tent. I froze. Something was moving inside the canopy. I slowly turned. A tall shadow walked around the table in a slow circle. A human shape. Too tall. Too stiff. He stopped directly under the empty lantern. I couldn't see his face, but I could feel his eyes on me. "Uncle Harlan!" I screamed, sprinting for the house. The door yanked open. Reese and Harlan ran out. "What happened?" Harlan barked. "There's a guy under the tent." I gasped. He moved a chair. He's still there." Then, bang. Something slammed into the far side of the house, hard enough to shake the windows. "What the hell?" Reese yelled. Another bang, closer this time. It echoed through my ribs. "Get inside," Jolene screamed from the living room. "All of you." We piled in. Harlan locked the deadbolt. "Who's out there?" Jolene cried, shutting curtains and blinds. "Why are they doing this?" Nobody answered, because none of us knew. 5 minutes later, just as the house went dead silent, bam! A window shattered in the kitchen. Jolene screamed. Reese ducked. Harlan grabbed the nearest thing that resembled a weapon. A fireplace poker. "Jesus Christ," he said under his breath. A brick lay on the kitchen floor, wrapped with a rubber band securing a folded note. Glass crunched under Harlan's boots as he bent down and tore the note open. I'll never forget the words. "Leave now, you are not welcome, go before it's darker." "It's already dark," Haley whispered, trembling. I could hear the panic rising in Jolene's breathing. My own pulse hammered in my ears. "What does that mean?" she asked. "Why would someone write that?" Reese swallowed hard. "Dad, that's not a prank." Then Harlan said something that made my blood run cold. "They took my flag." "What?" Reese asked. "My Trump flag out by the shed. It's gone." "Oh, you gotta be kidding me," Reese groaned. "This ain't about politics." "It might be," Harlan muttered. No way, this is something else." "How you figure?" Harlan snapped. Reese looked at me, and I understood instantly. Because growing up here, we all heard the rumors, people disappearing, strangers seen near the trees, silent watchers lurking at night. A group, a clan, a pack. No one knew for sure. But they weren't political. They were territorial. And Whisper Ridge wasn't theirs by law, but by fear. Harlan called 911. First time in my entire life I'd seen him even consider it. He paced as he talked. "Yes, ma'am. Multiple intruders. Busted our damn window. No, I ain't going outside to look again. Yes, we're locked in." When he hung up, he grabbed his old hunting rifle from the closet. "It got ammo?" I asked. "No clue," he said. "Ain't fired it in 8 years." We waited. Every minute felt like 10. A shadow passed the window once, then twice. Footsteps crunched around the outside. Slow, deliberate. Someone tried the back door knob. Jolene covered her mouth to muffle her sob. "Don't let him in," she whispered. Harlan stood with the rifle raised, shaking. "Please hurry," Jolene whispered, as though praying to the police. Then, finally, a short whoop of a police siren sounded outside. Never in my life had I felt relief hit so hard. We rushed to the front window. A sheriff's cruiser sat in the driveway, blue lights off, driver's door open. Deputy stepped out, hand on his holster, flashlight sweeping across the yard, but the woods were dead still again. Not a sound. Not a person. Like they had vanished. The deputy approached the house. "Everybody all right?" "For now," Harlan said, opening the door. The deputy walked in, looking around at the shattered kitchen window. "Whoever did this, they still here?" "They were," I said. "There were at least 2, maybe more." "They say anything? Threaten you?" I pointed at the brick. "They left that." The deputy read the note and frowned. "Y'all didn't see faces?" "No, sir," Reese said. "Just silhouettes." "You sure this ain't just some local boys messing around?" "Local boys don't move like that," I said. "They don't hide like that, and they damn sure don't surround a house." The deputy sighed, rubbing his forehead. "Look, we've been having trouble with folks living in them woods. Runaways, squatters, transients, some troublemakers. But we never had 'em hit a house like this." "So what do we do?" Jolene asked. He didn't answer at first. Then he said, "I'll take a look around outside. But y'all need to stay inside. Lock everything. Keep lights off by the windows." He stepped back out, and we all held our breath. 5 minutes later, he still hadn't come back. Harlan peeked through the curtain. "He's by the shed," he whispered. We all gathered close. The deputy stood near the old tool shed, shining his flashlight across the dirt, and then the beam hit something. "What is that?" I whispered. A shape stood behind the shed, a silhouette. Still, tall, watching the deputy. "Jesus," Reese breathed. The deputy stepped toward it cautiously. "Sheriff's office. Come out with your hands up." The figure didn't move. Hands where I can see 'em. Still nothing. The deputy moved closer. "No," I whispered. "Don't go near it." Then, the figure backed into the woods so unnaturally it didn't even look like a person walking. More like it glided. The deputy drew his gun. "Stop, right there." But the figure was already gone. The deputy cautiously approached the tree line, shining his flashlight, and suddenly, thump, something hit the shed roof so hard the whole structure shuddered. The deputy spun around, flashlight whipping upward. A second figure had been on top of the shed the whole time, and when the flashlight beam hit its face, its skin looked pale as flour, its eyes too wide, its mouth open like it was screaming. But no sound came out. "Oh my God," I whispered. The deputy stumbled back. "Show me your hands." The figure dropped down, but not like a human, not like a fall. More like it collapsed in a heap and instantly sprang up again, rushing into the dark. "What the?" the deputy yelled, retreating toward the house. He sprinted to the porch. "Inside! Now!" We let him in and locked the door. "What the hell was that?" Reese asked. The deputy was shaking. I don't know." "That weren't no damn meth head," Harlan said. "No, the deputy swallowed. "It wasn't." For a long moment nobody spoke. Then Jolene whispered, "Why us? Why tonight?" And the deputy finally said the thing we least wanted to hear. "Because this family's been on this land longer than anybody else." He looked at Harlan. "And some folks out there, they think the woods belong to them." We all stared at him. "What people?" Reese asked. "They move at night. We've had reports for years, shadows in the trees, folks getting stalked. I didn't believe half of it, but now—" "You think they're a cult?" I asked. "I think there's something worse," he said quietly. "And for whatever reason, y'all were their target tonight." "Can we leave?" Jolene whispered. The deputy shook his head. "Not until backup gets here. You can't drive these back roads in the dark with folks like that running around." "So we wait?" I asked. "We wait," he said. And so we did. Lights off, blinds closed. Everyone huddled together in the living room. Minutes crawled. Shadows moved across the windows sometimes. but never enough to see clearly. Once, someone tried the front doorknob again. Haley started crying. Jolene held her tight. Harlan sat with the rifle across his lap, finger hovering over the trigger. Reese whispered to me, "Remember when we were kids? All them stories? About the things in the woods?" "Yeah," I whispered. "You think those were about them?" "Yes," I said without hesitating, because every story matched exactly what we saw tonight. Silent watchers, moving without sound, never speaking, always staring. Whisper Ridge didn't have a monster. It had people, but they weren't normal, not anymore. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, red and blue lights flickered outside. 3 sheriff's vehicles rolled up, tires crunching over gravel. The moment the sirens chirped, the woods went completely silent. Like whatever was out there vanished instantly, dissolved into the dark. The officers swept the yard, the shed, the woods, the lake edge. They found nothing. No footprints, no trash, no signs, like no one had been there at all, except the deputy from earlier pointed to the shed roof. A single muddy handprint. Huge, too long, too narrow, not right. He didn't say anything, just stared. After the officers secured the property, one of them, a gray-haired sergeant, pulled Harlan aside. "You need to leave this house tonight," he said. "Pack a bag. Stay with family somewhere else for a couple days." "Why?" Harlan asked. "There are groups out here we can't pin down, folks living off-grid. Some families generations deep. They don't like outsiders. And sometimes, they pick a house and try to claim it." "Claim it how?" The sergeant didn't answer, but the look in his eyes said everything. We didn't argue. We packed overnight bags. The deputy escorted us to the road. We drove to my sister's apartment a county over. But on the way out, something happened that haunts me still. As we pulled away, I looked back toward the woods. And under the faint moonlight I saw them. 3 tall figures standing between the trees, watching our cars leave. No movement, no reaction. Just eyes reflecting the headlights as we passed. Like they were waiting. Like they were patient. Like they wanted us gone, but not done with us. I didn't sleep that night. None of us did. The next morning, officers checked the property again. The shed door was open, the canopy tent was knocked over, and under the table where we ate Thanksgiving dinner, they found another note. Written in the same messy handwriting as the first, "We don't want you, but we remember you and we will come when it's time." Nobody told Jolene that. Reese overheard the officers saying it. He never told his mother. We never went back to Whisper Ridge for Thanksgiving again. I still see those figures sometimes in my dreams, tall, wrong, silent, watching. And every Thanksgiving, when the sun starts setting, I get that same cold feeling I felt on the edge of Lake Price, like someone is standing just behind the trees, waiting, watching, remembering. I never believed that history could haunt a place the same way a person does. Not until last Thanksgiving. Not until I went back to the one town I swore I'd never return to, Red Willow, Maine. A place so quiet on the surface you'd think nothing bad ever happened there. But Thanksgiving has a memory. And it remembers the truth better than people do. My name is Jonah Reddick, 34. Divorced. Ex-journalist. And back then, someone who genuinely thought a simple family gathering couldn't possibly ruin me any more than life already had. Turns out life had plenty left to take. My mom, Lorene, called me 2 days before Thanksgiving. "Baby, listen. I know you're busy with whatever newspaper things you do, but your Uncle Silas ain't doing so hot. He's coughing like the damn chimney on the 4th of July. "Mom," I said, half asleep on my couch. "Chimneys don't cough on the 4th of July. "You know what the hell I mean," she snapped, then softened. "Please come home, just this year." I hadn't been home in 9 years. Red Willow was one of those towns where the grocery store cashier knows exactly how much you weigh, and the sheriff knows how your dad died before you ever tell him. But Silas raised me more than my own father did. I owed the man that much. All right, I sighed. I'll be there. Good, she replied. And Jonah? Pack warm. It's colder here. Feels like something's coming. She hung up before I could ask what she meant. When I arrived, the town looked the same, like it had been preserved in a jar. Old clapboard houses, snow-crusted mailboxes, the giant wooden sign that read, "Welcome to Red Willow, founded 1628, home of the first Thanksgiving feast reenactment parade." Yeah, that damn parade. Every year since I was a kid, they marched through Main Street, reenacting a peaceful feast that never truly existed. The truth? Nobody in Red Willow liked talking about the Red Willow Massacre, the real event behind the first feast, the town claimed. They rather celebrated a lie than confront the blood underneath it. The locals always said the past was dead and buried. But pasts don't stay buried here. Not in Red Willow. Mom hugged me like she was scared I might disappear mid-squeeze. "You look tired," she said, pulling back. "You look older," I teased. She smacked my arm. "Boy, you lost your damn mind using that city mouth here." The house hadn't changed, creaky stairs, crooked frames, drafty windows. The smell of smoked ham and old wood. The same carpet stain from when I dropped a bowl of cranberry sauce at age 8. My Uncle Silas sat in his old recliner by the fire, wrapped in 2 blankets. "Jesus, look who crawled out of his big fancy city life," he wheezed. "Missed you too, old man." He laughed until he coughed. A wet, rumbling sound that didn't feel normal. "You got taller," he said through breaths. "You got smaller. That's what happens when life kicks your ass," he grinned. "Come sit. We gotta talk. About tomorrow." Mom froze. Silas glared at her. "What about tomorrow?" I asked. Mom intervened quickly. "Oh, nothing. Just chores, the usual cooking." Cut the crap," Silas said. Then to me, "You're coming with me to the old ridge?" "That's where the parade starts this year." I frowned. "The ridge? Since when?" "Since the council decided to honor history more authentically," he groaned. "Idiots." Mom shivered and muttered, "Ain't nothing to honor up there." I didn't understand what she meant. Not then. Around 11 p.m., I stepped outside for some air. Frost drifted off the pine trees. Stars hung low like they were watching something. From across the yard, the metal wind chime my dad made decades ago suddenly rattled, even though the air was still. Then, "Hey. Hey, Jonah." I turned. It was Sydney, my childhood friend, bundled in a thick tan jacket, beanie half over her eyes. "Damn," she said, walking toward me. "You look exactly the same. Just sadder." I could say the same. She laughed, breath visible in the cold. "You heard about the parade route?" she asked, voice dropping. "Yeah, Silas told me." She looked nervous. "Don't go up there." "Why?" She bit her lip. "Because the council's digging up shit they ain't ready to deal with." "History?" I asked. "No," she whispered. "Debt." "What does that mean?" But before she could answer, a heavy thump echoed from the woods like a fist hitting wet soil. Sydney's face went pale. "Go inside, Jonah," she whispered. "Now?" Silas insisted I drive him to the ridge before sunrise. "You okay?" I asked as he wheezed, climbing into the truck. "Never been okay a day in my life," he coughed. "Start the damn engine." As we drove through the empty road, frost cracking under the tires, he finally spoke. "You ever wonder why the town doesn't talk about the massacre?" he asked. "It's old history. Brutal history." "No," he said. "It ain't old. Not here." He pointed to the woods lining the road. "They're still in there." "Who?" He stared forward, eyes distant. "The ones who never got justice. The ones the town pretends didn't die screaming." My stomach tightened. "You're scaring me, Silas." "Good. Because fear is the only honest thing left in this place." When we reached the ridge, the exact place Red Willow claims the first Thanksgiving feast happened, I noticed something. Fresh soil. Dozens of shovels. Wooden stakes marking something. "What the hell?" I muttered. Silas got out slowly, walked toward the ridge edge. This ain't a parade site, he said. It's a grave. He sat on a fallen log, catching his breath. Back in 1628, he started. Red Willow wasn't called that. The settlers named it Hollow's Mercy. But there wasn't any mercy. He pointed down the hill. That's where the feast happened. The real one. The one nobody teaches about. I waited, heart pounding. The settlers invited the Wamakee tribe for peace. But it was a trap. I swallowed. Jesus. They killed him while they ate, Silas whispered. Men, women, kids. Buried them right here. My throat tightened. And the town celebrates this every year? No, he said. The town celebrates the lie. They bury the truth like they buried the bodies. But why dig them up now? He looked at me with watery, terrified eyes. Because they want to move the land for development. Stores, a hotel. They can't do that with human remains under it. So they're digging quietly. My breath shook. And you're helping them? No. Then he whispered. I'm trying to stop them. Before I could reply, something moved behind us. A shape. A slow, dragging shuffle on dry leaves. Silas, I whispered. We're not alone. He stiffened. Oh God, he breathed. It's starting. Branches shook. The air turned icy. Silas, I said carefully. Get behind me. No, he whispered. They ain't after me. A voice echoed from the trees, hoarse, layered, like multiple throats speaking at once. My knees nearly buckled. What the hell was that? Silas grabbed my sleeve, tears spilling down his cheeks. They remember the blood, he whispered. And they remember the name, Reddick. What does my family have to do with? You're descended from Ezra Reddick, he choked. The man who led the slaughter. I felt like my chest exploded. No, that's true, he said. Every bit of it. The voice came again. Det. Then a figure stepped out. Not a ghost. Not a monster. A man, or what used to be one, skin gray and cracked like ancient bark, eyes hollow but burning. His ribs showed. His jaw hung crooked. His chest still carried markings tribal, ceremonial, half-rotted but recognizable. His limbs twitched like a dying animal, yet he walked with purpose. Behind him, dozens more figures emerged. Women, men, children, all in various states of decay. My stomach lurched. Oh God. Oh God, oh God. Silas whispered. They ain't here to kill you. They're here to collect. Collect what? You. Silas shoved me as hard as his frail body allowed. Run. I bolted down the ridge, slipping on frost, branches slashing my face. Behind me, footsteps dozens of them moved in jagged, unnatural cadence. A woman's voice shrieked behind me. Debt must be paid. I didn't breathe again, until I reached the truck. I fumbled the keys, got inside, locked the door. But as I started the engine, I saw something in the rearview mirror. Silas, standing still, surrounded by them. He wasn't running. He wasn't resisting. He simply said, "Take me instead. Leave the boy." A tall figure stepped forward, studied him, then shook its head. Reddick Det. Passes to blood. Silas turned toward me, raised a shaking hand. Go, Jonah. I slammed the gas. I tore back into Red Willow like a madman. I ran into town hall. People stared at me like I'd lost my mind. The mayor, Howard Lister, stepped out of his office. Jesus Christ, Jonah. What happened? You're digging on burial land, I yelled. You sick bastards. He stiffened. We're following protocol. You've awakened them. A woman scoffed. Awakened who? Before I could answer, the front doors blew open, cold wind howling through the lobby. The first figure stepped inside. Then the second. Then dozens more. People screamed. A councilman dropped his coffee, stammering. What the hell? The undead tribe stood silently in the center of town hall. Then the leader pointed straight at me. Blood. The entire crowd turned to me in horror. Jonah. The mayor whispered, backing away. What did you do? The town descended into chaos. People ran, hid, prayed. But the tribe didn't chase anyone but me. As I moved, they followed quiet, steady, unstoppable. Sydney found me near the closed diner. "Jonah, get in," she yelled. We sped toward the outskirts. "What the hell is happening?" she cried. "They want me," I said, shaking. "My family started this." She slammed the steering wheel. "God damn it, Jonah, why didn't you tell me your bloodline was cursed?" "I didn't know, until today." We reached the river bridge, the one leading out of Red Willow. "Go," I said. "Leave the town." She stared at me, eyes full of tears. "Not without you." Something stepped onto the bridge behind us. We both turned. The leader. Just him. His voice was clearer now. More human. "Reddick," he said. "Return the land." "What land?" I whispered. He approached, slowly. "The land stolen. The bones buried. The names erased. Your town eats lies every harvest. But we eat truth. Today we collect your life. Tomorrow we take the town." Sydney reached over and grabbed my hand. "Jonah, don't let them win." I stepped out of the car. The leader stopped a few feet from me. "Kill me," I said quietly. "But leave the town." The leader studied me for a long moment. Then he said, "Blood offers. Blood accepted." He raised his arm. I closed my eyes. A cold hand pressed against my forehead, then stopped. "No," the leader rasped. "Life owed. Life must pay. Not death." I opened my eyes. "What do you mean?" He leaned close, breath like winter. "You will carry our story. Speak the truth. Spread the truth. Make the lie die." My voice trembled. "You want me to tell people?" He nodded once. "Your life is our justice." Then the tribe vanished like smoke sucked backward into the trees. By the time the sun rose, Red Willow was silent. No parade, no feast, no celebration. People stayed inside, doors locked, lights off. The council shovels were abandoned at the ridge. No one dared touch the soil again. Silas never came home, not even his body. Mom cried for days. Sydney stayed by my side through the whole night. She kept squeezing my hand and whispering, "You're still here. You're still here." But I didn't feel here anymore. Not fully. Because the tribe's voices never left, whispering whenever the wind cuts cold. "Tell the truth, Jonah." So that's what I'm doing now. Writing this. Speaking the truth. Thanksgiving remembers the lies. But it remembers the blood too. And some debts don't die with time. I always believed Thanksgiving had a rhythm to it. That slow, familiar hum of a town settling into the holiday. People getting off work early. Grocery aisles packed. Kids running around in puffy jackets. The smell of turkey brine, cinnamon, diesel trucks warming up. Someone yelling across a parking lot, "Hey man, happy Turkey Day." But the Thanksgiving of 1980, in a small Nevada town called Cedar Valley, that rhythm broke. And I'm the one who had the best view of the moment everything snapped. Before I tell you what happened, you need to know who I was back then. I was 27, working part-time at a local radio station, KVCR 104.3, doing afternoon traffic updates and engineering the holiday ads. I lived alone in a second-floor apartment above a laundromat. My neighbors complained that my door squeaked every time I came home. But I always told them, "Hey, that squeaks my security system." Money was tight. The radio station barely paid me enough to keep my gas tank above E. But Thanksgiving? Thanksgiving was the one day I never felt lonely. Not because of family, I hadn't spoken to my parents in 2 years. But because the town itself felt like family. Cedar Valley was small enough that everyone waved at everyone. Even the folks you didn't trust still said, "Happy Holidays," at the gas station. But that year had tension in the air. Gas prices were high. The Iran hostage crisis was on every TV. People argued in bars about Reagan, about Carter, about what the hell was happening to the country. And Cedar Valley felt like a pressure cooker. A smile on the surface, boiling underneath. I just didn't know that the person doing the boiling was someone I already knew. Someone named Darlene Cole. Darlene wasn't a friend. She wasn't even someone I talked to more than twice in my life. She was background noise. A familiar stranger you see in grocery aisles, on bus benches, waiting outside the post office. But she always stuck out because of her eyes. Not scary. Just tired. Like she didn't fit inside her own head. Darlene was 48, divorced, lived with her adult son who barely spoke to her. She'd been a school teacher years back but quit after what folks called a breakdown nobody talked about openly. People said she heard voices. People said she slept in her car sometimes. People said she once tried to walk into oncoming traffic because God told her the light would turn green for her. Small towns love gossip, and Cedar Valley ate her alive. But here's what matters. The day before Thanksgiving, she bought a used 1971 Chevy Impala, and she told the seller something strange. "It's sturdy, right? I need something that won't die on impact." The guy assumed she meant deer on the highway. He assumed wrong. Thanksgiving, 1980 was warmer than usual, around 50 degrees. I was at the radio station early, recording goofy voiceovers like, "Cedar Valley Hardware is thankful for you. Come grab 20% off all winter gear today only." At noon, my boss let me go early. "Don't burn the turkey, kid," he said, slapping my back. "Don't worry," I joked. "I can barely afford one." I grabbed some groceries, picked up a pumpkin pie, and drove toward downtown Cedar Valley. Families filled the sidewalks. Holiday banners hung from streetlights. The air smelled like roasted turkey, cigarettes, and pine trees. The Cedar Valley cocktail. Kids dragged their parents toward the toy store. Street musicians played Kenny Rogers covers. Someone shouted from a passing car, "Happy Thanksgiving, y'all." Everything was normal. Perfectly normal. Until 2:56 p.m. Until I saw the same Chevy Impala I'd noticed the day before. The one Darlene bought. It was idling near the corner of Pine Ridge Road. Driver's window down. Engine rumbling. She was inside. Staring. Not at the road. Not at the cars. But at the crowds of people crossing the intersection. Families. Kids. Elders. Teenagers carrying board games. A couple arguing over yams. Her eyes were wide and shining, and her hands gripped the steering wheel like she was holding a weapon. I was close enough, maybe 20 feet away, to hear her talking to herself, whispering, repeating something over and over. "They're not innocent. They're not innocent. They're not innocent." My stomach tightened. Something felt wrong. Terribly wrong. I stepped closer, thinking maybe she was in distress. Maybe I should help. But she didn't look distressed. She looked resolved, like she'd already made her decision. She lifted her head toward the intersection, crowded with over 100 people rushing to get last-minute groceries. And then she said one sentence. "I will remember until the day I die. Let's separate the saved from the damned." Her foot slammed the gas, and Cedar Valley's Thanksgiving turned into hell. The Impala jumped the curb at maybe 20 miles per hour, just slow enough not to blow the tires, just fast enough to hit hard. Then she accelerated. 30 miles per hour. 35. 40. People screamed. Someone yelled, "Hey, hey, watch out." But the engine's roar drowned everything out. Bodies flew. A man holding a pie smashed against a wall. A kid in a yellow jacket rolled across the pavement. A woman's shopping bags burst like confetti. Cans, carrots, a glass jar bursting on impact. I tried to run toward the street but froze. My legs didn't respond. I felt like I was sinking into the sidewalk. The Impala tore down the length of Pine Ridge Road sidewalk, plowing through anyone in its path. People slammed into the hood. One rolled across the windshield. I swear I heard the bones crack. And then the body disappeared under the tires. Screams, metal, breaking glass, thuds. The sound was animal, primordial, chaos. And then, almost as suddenly as it began, the Impala swerved back onto the road, drove 2 more blocks, and stopped at a red light. Just stopped, like she'd finished driving to church, horn honking behind her. Someone yelling, "Lady, what the hell?" She didn't look at them. She just sat there, both hands on the wheel, breathing calmly. I ran. Finally, my legs moved, and I wished they hadn't. Bodies everywhere. Some breathing, some not. Some whispering, "Help, Please. Some not moving at all. A teenage girl screamed hysterically. My mom, somebody help her. A guy knelt beside a bleeding elderly man, yelling, Call an ambulance. Call an ambulance. I saw a father holding his son, a boy maybe 8 years old, covered in dust and blood, saying over and over, Stay with me, buddy. Don't close your eyes. Stay with me. The sound of him sobbing will never leave my memory. Blood pooled along the curb. A woman's scarf lay in the street, soaked red. A man I recognized, Jim, who worked at the radio station, was lying against a parking meter, with his leg twisted the wrong way. He looked up at me, face white as flour. She didn't even slow down. Keep pressure on the wound, I said, my voice shaking. I can't feel my foot, he whispered. People were running everywhere, crying, screaming, begging for help. But the ambulances, there weren't enough. Cedar Valley was too small. Sirens echoed. Far away, too far away. It was pure carnage. And Darlene, she was just sitting at that red light, calm, like her morning errands were complete. When police reached her, she didn't resist, didn't struggle, didn't fight. She just looked at the officers and said, I did what God needed done. They pulled her from the car, cuffed her, sat her on the curb. She smiled, actually smiled. I stood 20 feet away as she lifted her head, looked at the blood-covered sidewalk, and asked an officer, How many did I free from sin? The cop didn't answer. She laughed quietly. They should thank me. One officer lost his temper. Lady, you're out of your goddamn mind. She shook her head. No. I've finally found clarity. Her voice was steady, smooth, detached, and that terrified me more than anything else I'd witnessed. Cedar Valley became a ghost town overnight. Stores closed. Schools closed. Churches held emergency prayer services. People hugged their kids more tightly. Nobody walked downtown. Nobody trusted crowds. Every conversation had the same question. Why did she do it? But the real horror was that nobody could answer it. Weeks later, I was subpoenaed. I was a key witness. One of few who heard her talking to herself before the crash. The courtroom smelled like cold coffee and old carpet. Reporters packed the back rows. Families of victims sat stiff, hollow-eyed. When I took the stand, the prosecutor asked me, What exactly did the defendant say before accelerating? My voice shook. She said, Let's separate the saved from the damned. And then she accelerated toward the crowd. I pointed toward the defense table. Darlene looked at me. Not angry. Not guilty. Not ashamed. Just bored. Like she was listening to a weather report. When Darlene spoke, the courtroom fell silent. God told me who was righteous, she said calmly, and told me to take the unclean ones home. Her lawyer tried to claim she was insane. The prosecutor argued she was perfectly lucid. The town was divided. But the moment that sealed her fate, a reporter asked her as she was being led out, Do you regret what you did? She smiled gently. No, they should be grateful. The whole room froze. Even her lawyer looked sick. After 5 days of deliberation, guilty, on 6 counts of murder, and 19 counts of attempted murder. She showed no emotion. None. Not when they shackled her wrists. Not when a mother screamed, You killed my baby. Not when the judge said, You will spend the rest of your life in prison. She just nodded, as if she'd expected it, as if she didn't care. I moved away from Cedar Valley. Tried to forget, tried to move on, but trauma doesn't follow rules. It sits in the backseat of your life. Buckled in, quiet, waiting. Every Thanksgiving, no matter where I was, no matter how much time had passed, I couldn't shake the memory of screams, or the thud of bodies hitting metal, or her voice whispering, They're not innocent. I eventually visited Cedar Valley again, for the first time in years. Pine Ridge Road looked normal. Shops open, people walking, kids laughing, like nothing ever happened. Except at the corner, right where Darlene had first accelerated, someone had placed a small plaque, in memory of those who never made it home. Thanksgiving 1980. Turkeys roasted. Families gathered. Life moved on. The world forgot. But I didn't. I still see the Impala. Still hear the thud. Still hear that sentence she whispered, right before she took everything from us. And sometimes, in the quietest moments, right before sleep, I swear I hear her voice again. Let's separate the saved from the damned. And I wake up sweating, because I know she believed it. Every word. And that's the part that keeps me up at night. The absolute belief of a person who thought Thanksgiving was the perfect day to decide who deserved to live. I always tell people that Thanksgiving is supposed to make you feel grounded in family, in food, in small stupid traditions that somehow end up meaning the world. But that year, the holiday hit me differently. It felt heavy before it even started. Maybe it was the weather. Maybe it was the stress of hosting for the first time. Maybe it was the week-long argument with my brother. Or maybe it was the fact that I hadn't slept more than 4 hours in 3 straight nights. My name is Ryan Calder. And that Thanksgiving afternoon became the moment when I realized how quickly your assumptions can turn into weapons against other people, and against yourself. I'm not originally from Redwood Junction, a small aging town about 50 minutes from Portland. I moved here 3 years ago after my job in warehouse logistics got transferred. The town has old railroads, cold wind that feels like it carries bits of metal in it, and a community that's polite but distant, you know. The kind of place where people smile at you but don't want to know your name. My wife, Lauren, grew up here, and that Thanksgiving, her entire side of the family, and when I say entire, I mean like 22 people were coming to our small 2-bedroom rental. Her dad is old school, Midwest strict. Her mom is one of those ladies who thinks everything you say is either rude or a hidden insult. And her cousins are loud enough to shake your soul loose. So yes, I needed wine. A lot of it. And cranberry sauce, because apparently, the homemade one you made last year tasted like jam someone left in the sun, according to Lauren's aunt. So after hours of cleaning, prepping, and fighting with a frozen turkey like it owed me money, I left the house around 2:47 p.m. to run what I thought would be a quick grocery trip. Instead, I walked into one of the most terrifying misunderstandings of my life. When I pulled into the Evergreen Fresh Market, the wind was moving sharp enough to sting my ears. The parking lot was half full, not chaotic, just the typical Thanksgiving rush. People walking fast, arms full of last-minute items, kids whining, couples bickering. I stepped out of my old gray Toyota Corolla, locked the door, shoved my hands into my jacket pockets, and started walking toward the store. That's when I saw them. About 8 to 10 guys standing right near the front entrance. Hoodies, beanies, long puffer jackets, chain necklaces, a couple with red bandanas hanging from their pockets. One had a tattoo on his neck. 2 were wearing black and red caps turned backwards. One of them had baggy jeans with graffiti patches. Everything about them screamed gang, or at least that's what my mind yelled before anything else. I don't consider myself a paranoid man, but Redwood Junction had been dealing with gang spillover from Portland for a while now. Shootings, assaults, car break-ins. People posted constantly on the local Facebook group about groups of teens acting aggressive. Even the sheriff said the rise in gang-style vandalism was concerning. So the second I saw these guys, my stomach locked up. I forced myself to stay calm. Don't look at them. Just walk. I stared straight ahead, counting my breaths. 1 step, 2 steps. But the closer I got, the worse it felt like walking into a space that didn't want me there. I wasn't even 10 yards away when one of them, a tall kid, maybe 19, wearing a maroon hoodie, peeled away from the group. He looked directly at me. My heart immediately started hammering. Shit. Not right now. I whispered under my breath. But just when he took a few steps toward me, a woman power-walked past me toward the store, mid-30s, curly hair, grocery list in her hand. The kid's attention snapped to her instantly. The whole group shifted toward her. She looked terrified. Their voices got louder. I couldn't hear exactly what they said, but the tone was sharp, aggressive. She tried to step around them, but they closed the space. I didn't stop, didn't listen, didn't turn. I just slipped into the store as fast as I could. Inside, the warmth hit me like a wave. The smell of bread, rotisserie chicken, pies. The sound of shopping carts slamming, scanners beeping, a baby crying near the produce section. I tried to calm my breathing. You're fine. Just get your stuff and leave. But the thought of walking back out there made my palms sweat. I went through the aisles fast, grabbed 3 bottles of Cabernet, 2 Merlots, 2 sparkling ciders for the kids, cranberry sauce, gravy mix, butter, pie crust, and a bag of sweet potatoes Lauren forgot to mention until the last possible minute. I didn't grab a cart, didn't want to juggle it through the crowd outside. So by the time I reached checkout, my arms were shaking under the weight. After paying, I stared at the automatic doors. I could see them through the glass still there. Still talking loudly. Still blocking the front. But I had no choice. I stepped outside. Within 2 seconds, it happened. I accidentally made eye contact. Not long. Maybe half a second. But enough. One of them, a shorter kid with a black beanie and a red and black jacket, broke into a walk toward me. My heart flat out dropped. Don't panic. Don't panic. Don't panic. But my legs sped up. He sped up too. I could hear him saying something behind me, muttering, talking fast. I couldn't make out the words. Something like, "Yo, hey man, hold up, hey." I ignored him. My bags were heavy, too heavy. I felt the plastic stretching. Something slipped. I heard thunk roll. A bottle? A can? I didn't know. I didn't stop. I just kept pushing toward my car. The kid kept getting closer. By the time I reached my Corolla, my hands were numb, my arms were burning, and the kid was at least 15 feet behind me and closing. The wind carried his voice, not loud, but sharp. "Yo, sir, hold up." I fumbled the bags onto the ground on one side, reaching for my keys. Except the second my hand went to my pocket, my breath froze. My keys weren't there. Neither was my wallet. My mind flashed white. No. Please God, no. I tore open one of the grocery bags, but my shaking hands only made things worse. 2 bottles nearly rolled out. They weren't in there either. Then I realized something horrifying. In my rush inside the store earlier, I had tossed both my wallet and keys into one of the bags, so they wouldn't fall from my pockets. And now, I had no idea which one they were in. I spun in a full circle, chest tightening. That's when I saw him. The kid. Standing just a few feet away, holding my wallet and keys in his hand. My entire body went cold. He wasn't smirking, wasn't laughing, just breathing hard from catching up. I froze. The first thought that hit me wasn't logical, or fair, or even human. He's gonna rob me. He's gonna take the car. He's gonna hurt me. My glove compartment flashed in my mind, the .38 snub-nose I kept, just in case. I actually imagined breaking the window with my elbow, reaching in, grabbing the gun, pointing it at him before he could. But none of that happened, because he did something I didn't expect. He held my wallet and keys out toward me and said, "Hey man, you dropped these back there." Just like that. Normal voice. Normal expression. Not threatening. Not mocking. Just human. I stared at him like an idiot. He raised his eyebrows. "You good, dude? You were walking like someone was chasing you." The irony almost made me sick. My throat felt tight as I reached out and took the items from his hand. "Thanks," I muttered. He shrugged. "Yeah, no problem. Ain't trying to see anyone lose their Thanksgiving over some keys." Behind him, 2 more guys were walking over, but not aggressively. They looked curious. One called out, "Yo, Devin. You coming?" The one who helped me, apparently named Devin, nodded. "Yeah, chill. Dude just dropped his stuff." The other guy glanced at me. "Happy Thanksgiving, man." The words hit harder than they should have. I swallowed. "Yeah, you too." They walked back toward the entrance. Just like that. No threats. No staring contest. No intimidation. Just kids hanging out outside a store. Kids who happened to look a certain way that my mind automatically labeled dangerous. My hands were still shaking as I loaded the groceries into the back seat. My chest still felt tight. Not from fear anymore, from shame. I sat in the driver's seat for a long minute, breathing slowly, watching the group from a distance. Now that the panic fog wasn't clouding my vision, I could actually see clearly. Most of them were laughing, passing around a bag of chips, drinking sodas. One was showing another something on his phone. One had earbuds in. Not a gang. Not even close. Just teens. Teens who probably scared other people without ever meaning to. My mind replayed the moment I imagined reaching for the gun. It made my stomach twist. One wrong assumption. One wrong move. One flinch. And that kid who had just shown me nothing but kindness could have ended up dead because I couldn't control my fear. When I finally started the car, my hands were steadier. By the time I drove away, I felt something heavy lift off my chest, not gone, but loosened. Thanksgiving is supposed to remind you what you're grateful for. That day, I learned something deeper. Fear doesn't always protect you. Sometimes, it blinds you. Sometimes, it turns you into the danger. And compassion, even from someone you misjudge, can cut through that darkness like nothing else. When I got home, Lauren opened the door immediately. "You okay? You were gone forever?" I stood there a moment. The cold wind curling around my back. The grocery bags digging into my fingers. Then I smiled. A real one. "Yeah," I said quietly. "I'm good." She raised an eyebrow. "What happened?" I shook my head slowly. "I'll tell you later. Let's just have a good Thanksgiving." She nodded, kissed my cheek, and took the bags from my hands. Inside, the house was warm, loud, crowded, but safe. Safe in a way that felt different now, like I understood its value more deeply. I kept thinking of the kid Devin walking away without expecting anything. Just doing the right thing because it was the right thing. Funny how a stranger can teach you humanity faster than people who've known you for years. I never thought Thanksgiving would become the night that rewrote my entire life, cut it clean into a before and an after. Most people talk about Thanksgiving like it's some sacred bubble of warmth. Turkey, pie, football, family pictures. But for me, Thanksgiving is a ghost that still sits in the corner of my mind, whispering the sound of boots on old wooden steps, the crackle of cold air moving down a hallway, and the last trembling breath I heard that night in the dark. My name is Rowan Hale, and this is the story I have never until now told anyone fully. It began 3 years ago, on a fading gray stretch of land outside Redwood Hills, Montana, a place where winter sets in early and holds on like a bad habit. I grew up in Redwood Hills but left for college in Seattle, swearing to myself I'd never come back. But life has a cruel habit of forcing you into corners you thought you'd escaped. My dad died of a heart attack. Mom passed 6 months later. Grief, loneliness, maybe both. They left behind the Hale family house, the only home I'd ever known. A long sloping roof, cedar siding, a wide porch that groaned whenever you stepped on it. People in town always said it was too damn close to the tree line. But I came back anyway. Someone had to settle the estate, pay the taxes, fix the place up. And honestly, I didn't have anywhere else to be. I'm not ashamed to admit this. I was broke, depressed, and running out of options. So I moved in, telling myself it'd just be temporary. Like every other lie struggling adults tell themselves. But what really broke me wasn't the grief, or the cold, or the silence. It was the break-ins. Redwood Hills isn't a big place. It's the sort of town where the diner waitress remembers your order by the second day, and the old men at the hardware store ask too many questions. "Folks been breaking into cabins up near Ash Pine," said Helen, the diner waitress with the raspy voice. "Couple teenagers, idiots mostly. But one of them's got sticky fingers." Sheriff Nolan told me the same, but with more attitude. "Lock your windows," he said, chewing on a toothpick. "Kids around here aren't scared of consequences. Not anymore." The worst part? Someone had broken into my house twice before I even finished moving boxes in. First time, they took tools. Second time, they took a pocket knife my father gave me. The anger I felt was like rust, slow, ugly, eating through everything. I started sleeping light. Started noticing every sound. Started carrying a handgun inside the house. And yeah, I'll admit it, I got paranoid. Paranoid enough to buy a small audio recorder and set it in the hallway, just to catch who it is. Paranoid enough to nail the basement door from the inside. Paranoid enough to keep a flashlight and loaded Glock on my nightstand. Thanksgiving morning was bitter cold. Wind coming off the ridge sounded like someone whispering across broken glass. I didn't have plans. Didn't have anyone to visit. Didn't have anything to cook besides a microwavable turkey dinner. I texted my neighbor, Mrs. Landry, a sweet old lady who loved gossip and knitted scarves for stray cats. "Happy Thanksgiving," she wrote. "You should come by later. I made pumpkin pie." I told her I might stop by. Truth was, I didn't feel like pretending to be okay. But around 4 p.m., loneliness hit me hard, and I walked down to her place. We talked, ate pie. She asked if I was holding up okay. "Rowan, you need to take care of yourself," she said, tapping my hand with her wrinkled fingers. "The house feels heavy. Maybe you should stay with someone tonight." I smiled it off. "It's just a house, Mrs. L. I'll be fine." "Mm-hmm," she muttered. "You say that. But your eyes look like they haven't slept in days." As I left her porch, I saw something that pulled a chill down my spine. A dusty blue pickup truck, parked far down the road, engine running, not moving, not turning around, just idling, watching. I tried to shrug it off as someone visiting another home down the road, but a knot formed in my stomach that wouldn't go away. I walked home faster than I meant to. When I reached my house, everything looked normal. But when I opened the front door, a cold draft slid through my legs like someone brushing past me. I locked the door behind me. Deadbolt. Chain. And then I checked the windows. One by one. I don't know why, just instinct. I was halfway through my microwave turkey dinner when I heard it. A sound from upstairs. A soft, deliberate tap. Then another. My heart jolted. I set my fork down slowly. Held my breath. Tap. "Not tonight," I whispered to myself. "God, please, not tonight." I grabbed my flashlight and gun. Stepped into the hallway. Listened. Silence. Then, crack. The sound of glass breaking upstairs. My chest tightened. Hands shaking. I moved toward the staircase, but stopped. My father always told me, never walk into a trap. Make them come to you. So I backed up, turned off the lights, sat in the shadowed corner of the living room where the staircase couldn't see me, and I waited. For 10 minutes. For 20. For 30. Nothing. No movement. No voices. No footsteps. Just that creeping cold wind sneaking through the broken window upstairs. I told myself maybe a branch hit it. Maybe the cold cracked it. Maybe. Then I heard it. Soft footsteps. Slow. Careful. Inside my house. My throat tightened. I whispered shakily, "Who's there?" Silence. Then a boy's voice, young, maybe late teens, muttered, "Keep your light down, dude. Don't touch anything loud." Another voice, a girl this time, whispered back sharply, "Just grab the cash or jewelry or whatever and let's bounce." This house freaks me out. My stomach dropped. They were in my parents' bedroom, the room I hadn't touched since Mom died. I felt something twist inside me, anger, grief, fear, everything boiling at once. I stood, gripping the gun so tight my knuckles went numb. And then the girl spoke again, her voice cutting into the dark. "Wait. Did you hear that?" Footsteps paused. My heart slammed against my ribs. Then the boy whispered, "Someone's downstairs." The next seconds felt like hours. Footsteps made their way to the top of the staircase. "Hello?" The boy called out nervously. "Hey, if someone's home, we're just gonna leave, okay? No trouble." His voice was shaky. Not confident. Not threatening. Just scared. But fear doesn't undo broken windows. Fear doesn't return stolen belongings. Fear doesn't erase the feeling of being hunted inside your own home for months. I didn't move. Didn't speak. The flashlight beam appeared at the top of the stairs, sweeping across the ceiling, the walls. Then, it landed right on me. The boy gasped. Shit, there's someone." He tried to turn. Tried to run. But the girl pushed into him from behind. They stumbled. Fell halfway down the stairs. She screamed, "Oh my God. Oh my God. Please don't shoot, please." I hadn't even fired. But fear does strange things. To them. To me. When the boy tried to scramble back up, I shouted, "Stop, don't move." He froze. Hands up. Face trembling. We didn't know anyone was home. He stammered. Man, please just let us go. The girl was crying. Not dramatic crying. Real, broken crying. Please, she whispered. I'm sorry, we're sorry, please. And for a moment, for just one tiny, fleeting moment, I almost let them go. Almost. Until the boy muttered something under his breath. Damn old freak should have fixed his locks. It was quiet, barely audible, but I heard it. Every violation. Every theft. Every night I slept with a gun. Every piece of my father's home they'd carved away from me. It all came crashing down at once. Something inside me snapped. Quietly. Like a twig in deep woods. I raised the gun. The boy's eyes widened. He screamed. No, wait. The gunshot shook the walls. He fell instantly, collapsing into the railing, rolling down the last steps. The girl shrieked, Jay, no Jay, and threw herself onto him. I froze. I hadn't expected the sound, the blood, the way the boy's body twitched on the floorboards. The girl pressed her shaking hands to his chest, sobbing, oh God, he's bleeding, oh my God, please help, please. I stood there, trembling, breath broken, heart pounding painfully. I didn't mean, but the words felt hollow. The girl looked up at me with pure terror. You fucking killed him, she whispered. Why would you? She crawled backward toward the staircase like a wounded animal. I didn't chase her. I didn't threaten her. I just stood frozen, staring at the lifeless look settling across the boy's half-open eyes. Then, through tears, through panic, she said the one thing that shattered me completely. We weren't trying to hurt you. We just needed stuff to sell so we could eat. We were living out of that truck. You could have just yelled. You could have just, oh God, Jay. She pressed her forehead to his chest. I felt sick, dizzy, lost. But before I could move, she bolted, ran toward the back door, slipped on the tile, scrambled to her feet, ran again. I shouted after her. Stop. I'm not gonna hurt you, just stop. But she wasn't listening. She was running for her life. I followed her out onto the back porch. Cold air sliced my face. Snow crunched under her feet as she sprinted toward the tree line. Wait, I yelled. Please, don't. Maybe I sounded desperate. Maybe I just didn't want another ghost on my conscience. But she didn't stop. She kept running, slipping, falling, scrambling. Please, I begged into the cold. Just stop, please. She reached the edge of the woods, turned, looked back at me one final time, and whispered something I felt more than heard. You ruined everything. Then she ran into the darkness. I should have called 911. Should have helped her. Should have done 1,000 things differently. But shock is a terrible thing. It holds you frozen. Holds your soul like a fist. Makes your voice become nothing. I walked back into the house, looked at the boy's body on the floor, sat beside him, and cried until I couldn't feel my face. Sheriff Nolan arrived hours later. Not because I called, but because someone reported a screaming girl running down Ashpine Road. By dawn, they'd found her. Alive. Hypothermic. Traumatized. She told them everything. Every detail. The sheriff looked at me with a mix of pity and horror. Jesus, Rowan. What the hell happened here? I didn't have an answer. Maybe I still don't. The investigation was long, messy, heartbreaking. I didn't go to prison, but I didn't walk away clean either. The court ruled the shooting unjustified. But instead of prison, I was sentenced to mandated psychiatric treatment and barred from owning firearms for life. The girl Lena eventually recovered. She never came back to Redwood Hills. The boy Jaden was buried by a grandmother he barely knew. And the house? I moved out. Sold it. Left Montana for good. But every Thanksgiving, no matter where I am, no matter how many years pass, I hear those footsteps on the stairs. I hear the girl sobbing over her cousin. I hear the shot. I see the blood. Some nights, I swear I still see Jay lying at the bottom of the stairs, looking up at me with those wide, stunned eyes, asking silently, why? And I still don't have an answer. Thanksgiving was supposed to be a night of thanks. Instead, it became the night everything broke. The night I can never outrun.